Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Gallery QI. This is our first time back since the COVID closure. We were closed for a year, but we did do live streaming productions, and this is our first in-person event, and our first event figuring out how to speak into microphones with our masks and all that good stuff. So we have a new name, Gallery QI. We used to be Gallery Cal IT2. Same fabulous gallery. New name to identify us with our hosts, the Qualcomm Institute. And so our event for this evening features is a capital glitch. Arab cyborg turns to DC. Featuring our guest Laila Shereen Sakr, also known as VJ Amel, and she will be presenting. I'll be hyperventilating and fogging my glasses. And so Gallery QI is a gallery for critical art and tech led by an interdisciplinary committee of UCSD faculty, if you're not familiar with us. And our gallery website, galleryqi.ucsd.edu, is where you can find info on our past and upcoming exhibits. So before I turn over the floor to Laila, I'd like to thank everybody from both Laila's team and the Gallery QI team, or the Qualcomm Institute team, and that is Trish Stone, Hector Bracho, Ruben Huerta, Max Carian, Alex Matthews, and everyone else at QI, as well as Laila and Josh, DJ, MD, her whole team. And our panelists tonight are Ricardo Dominguez, Jordan Crandall, and Ronak Edem Adpour. And so we are very appreciative to have everybody with us tonight. So before I turn you over to Laila, I'll tell you a little bit about her. Laila is an assistant professor of media theory and practice at UC Santa Barbara, right up the road. She is engaged in an ongoing post-human performance of VJ Amel. She theorizes technology and the body through multimodal creative research. She's currently finishing a book called Arabic Glitch, Technoculture, Data Bodies, and Archives. At UCSB, she is faculty affiliate in the Feminist Studies Department and the Center for Responsible Machine Learning. She serves on the advisory, executive, and steering committees for UCSB Digital Arts and Humanities Commons, the Center for Middle East Studies, and the Center for Information Technology and Society. In 2016, she co-founded Wireframe, a UCSB digital media studio that supports critical game design and digital arts practice. Over the last 20 years, she has been a leading voice in the open source movement, in particular for Arabic localization. She is co-editor for the Open Access Journal, Media Theory, and also for After Video, published by Open Humanities Press. She has an amazing career. I'm going off script here because I've been familiar with her work for over 10 years, and she's done an incredible number of shows in different contexts, from grassroots galleries to art events. She has shown in solo and group exhibitions and performances at galleries and museums, including the San Francisco MoMA, National Gallery of Art in Jordan, Camera, Austria, Cultura Digital in Brazil, Kirchner Cultural Center in Argentina, Tahrir Cultural Center in Cairo, Fridge Art Gallery in Washington, D.C., and 100 copies in Egypt, and today at Gallery at Qualcomm Institute. So for those of you who have not seen the work, we will have time after the presentations to take a walk through. She's got an incredible piece up on the Vroom video wall, as well as work in the gallery. So the structure for tonight will be Laila will speak, and then we will do a panel discussion, and followed by a reception. So before I fog up and hyperventilate anymore, I introduce our fabulous guest, Laila Shereen Sakr.
Hugs.
Hygienic hugs.
Hygienic
Go
hugs.
for it.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you to the gallery committee for inviting me to propose Capital Glitch. Thank you for everyone for being here today. On January 6, 2021, I was in my garage office preparing to teach on Zoom since classes had been fully remote at UC Santa Barbara since March 2020. As the January 6th insurrection unfolded, countless words, images, videos inundated our senses through our multiple media infrastructures. I canceled my regular course schedule and asked the students to turn their gaze to the Capitol building in DC. We watched, annotated, and made sense of the insurrection through Slack, a communication platform that works like internet relay chats, IRCs, if anybody knows those, with features such as persistent chat rooms, organized by topic, private groups, and direct messaging. Within days of witnessing the Capitol riots, I read on Twitter about a young hacktivist who had downloaded and made publicly available copious amounts of social media from the conservative new social media platform Parler. I immediately messaged the students on Slack about the hacker who goes by the handle at donk_NB, who eventually snagged 56 terabytes worth of data, photos, videos, text posts, many of which included some GPS metadata that positively put Parler users in and around the Capitol on January 6th, including in secured areas. At least some of this data, 56,000 gigabytes. So how did she do it? There was a lot of speculation that it was because Parler had used WordPress, an open source platform. But the bottom line is Parler's user data leaked because CEO John Matze and the site's architects left major flaws in Parler's application protocol interface. That is called an API, an application protocol interface. That is how people are able to pull information from a website. The link between Parler's front end and its users was left unsecure. So there was first of all, there was no authentication. Parler's designers didn't restrict access to the API by requiring authentication. It's a very simple thing. Users did not need specific credentials to access the data on the back end. That left an enormous backdoor open. Most websites are aware of this basic security protocol and don't allow access to the API without some form of authentication. Two common authentication solutions are API keys and tokens, both of which require some validation. Second, there was no rate limiting caps, which means how much data a user can access regardless of their credentials. So web users may have seen this too many requests error message out in the wild, which means that you've pulled too much, you've reached a quota, right? Parler didn't have this either, which meant that once the unsecured backend was accessed by at donk_NB, she was also able to archive Parler's data within 48 hours. In addition, Parler also allowed posts its users believed were deleted to be both available and easily discoverable once someone was in the back end, right? So usually it's called caching. There's a method when someone deletes, you delete them actually from the server. So in the aftermath of the deadly riot, some Parler users, aware of the reams of evidence available on the web, encouraged others to delete their posts from January 6. All of the Parler's posts were given sequential numbers that increased by 1. Even when those posts were deleted by the user, they remained on the back end. And @doncnb apparently needed to write only a very basic script because each unit is only +1, +1, +1. And so it was very easy to archive each post one by one. And finally, since Parler didn't bother removing geotagged data from photos and videos and posts before they were uploaded, that information was also sitting there waiting to be archived. So what are the stakes? And I think this is something we're going to talk about, and I think this is a question that I'm asking to my panelists and to all of us today. I think you'll see that in a lot of the media that we culled, there's like several themes that the protesters or the people who were creating this media were saying. One is stop the steal. This was a chant. Free speech was a chant. And the irony is that it was through this freedom of speech, this public speech that went out, that then actually was used through the FBI. The FBI did use DoncNB's 56,000 gigabytes in the subsequent interrogation of the rioters of the Capitol. And I think there are many things at stake. One, it is about free speech. The second is about what we understand to be true or false, which is related to free speech. Over those early winter months, the class continued to question and grapple with logics of automation and scale underpinning networked computational platforms. And we explored vocabularies and methods of critical analysis that we can reshape and reuse in thinking and writing about these data-driven, algorithmically produced stories. And one day, DJ Duncan, who's sitting over there in the audience, you should talk to him a little bit later, a young scholar who I work with, sent me a link to one of DoncNB's Parler dumps on Amazon Turk. And so it began. By the time spring had rolled around, when Amy reached out to me, Amy Alexander, about doing an exhibition here, several things converged at the same time, and I was compelled and could not say no to the work that would lie ahead. I was in the midst of responding to 3 external reviewer reports for a book manuscript that I had been working on for quite a while now, years. The primary ambition of Arabic Glitch, Technoculture, Data Bodies, and Archives is to demonstrate that, first of all, there is no digital divide. If the virtual was once an effective hermeneutics to theorize emergent technologies, by 2021, its utility seems to be rapidly waning. Both bodies and data are physically, socially, and energetically actual, as they have deep integrative impacts on our contemporary livelihoods. Data bodies are the post-human performance avatars operating within virtual worlds, manipulated by real bodies on the ground, and all of it with political consequences. Secondly, one must have procedural literacy to understand and identify how glitches or how intervention occurs to alter media systems in which data bodies exist, right? So you have to have procedural literacy to understand the media system. You have to understand the process of algorithmic storytelling and construction and making. And finally, with an understanding that there is no digital divide and procedural literacy, we have the tools to reimagine global networks of power. And so here I was thinking about a proposal for this exhibition and finishing thinking about my book over the last 6 months or several months, 4 to 6 months. And the basic interventions of both the show and the book sort of have come together in these points. First, by centering the Middle East. All right, I'm centering the Middle East, the Arabic-speaking world. I trace the Arab uprisings as ground zero for resistance movements in the 21st century. Understanding the complexities of the internet and how digital media circulates around the globe allows the Arab computer programmers to move beyond Marxist discussions of an Arab revolutionary moment, grounded in historical context of the past. And it allows for an Arab techno-global rising that sparked a wave of cyber activism that has marked the 21st century in a new and revolutionary kind of revolution. It's been 10 years that we've been watching these types of cyber activism against a state. Secondly, social media reveals the contestations between governments, state actors, hackers, and resistors from right wings and the left wing. At first glance, this appears to be a contest between activists and the right wing and the state. But if we look more deeply, it's a bit more complex. Let's think about the role of social media. Let's think about the role of Facebook for a moment. Stepping outside of Parler. The Zuckerberg Cambridge Analytics scandal is a familiar example of how each interest lost in translation among the state, corporate, and public actors. When Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, testified before the US Senate over Facebook's role in the Cambridge Analytica scandal, if you remember that one, pre-Meta, and that was April 2018, his testimony revealed the extent of the gap in understanding between Silicon Valley technology giants and policymakers in Washington within the narrow US perspective. As social media memes suggest, the difference itself was untranslatable. The Senate hearings showcased the public's fundamental confusion over the meaning and implication of these technologies. And third, to understand this broad confluence of actors, I introduced this idea of data bodies and glitch as a transdisciplinary theory and practice that brings together fields of knowledge, different approaches to knowledge production from the humanities and the design and the sciences. These methodologies are used to produce these interactive visualizations that you see today. And my fourth intervention is to remix discourse, to include a community author rather than a single subjectivity. Whether expert, popular, or imaginative, community authors range from groups of people who do not know each other yet to take a social media platform using a singular hashtag or a chant like Stop the Steal to create a discourse authored by many to a collective of individuals who work together and write together under one name. And we will see that today. Vijay Amel. I'll get back to who we are. Here we are with the new gallery. Vijay Amel is a project that was actually born out of 9/11. For 20 years, I've been performing as this post-human cyborg, who's an Arabic-speaking mother and a video jockey, a VJ. Is Arabic for mother, and Amel is Arabic for hope. Vijay Amel is a name I use in a set of art practices where I explore the implications of placing the identity of mother and a techno-feminist construct of cyborg within local and transnational expressions of Arab. And I think Arab cyborg mother as a convergence, again, of historical experiences rather than a set of cultural identities. because convergence and experience embody the notion of movement and phenomenology of action. I bring these words together in order for us to challenge us to think about what does a child of a cyborg look like if these cyborgs are moving. They're not fixed, they're not identities, but rather experiences. VJ Amel is a longue durée performance that continues since that infamous day I was running down those 10 flights of stairs on September 11th, 2001 in Washington, D.C. Its magnitude in duration enables the VJ Amel project to substantively speak to the longer arc of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. My earlier work investigated the process of building communities among transnational artists and activists through design, the DC guerrilla poetry insurgency in 2003 and word of mouth in 1999. Over time, my practice evolved into live cinema performance, digital art, and network analysis, questioning the problem space between technology and political change, in the contemporary world from the perspective of this Arab-speaking cyborg. The methodology I use today works specifically at the intersections between cultural and technical analytics, between theory and practice, between the virtual and embodied practices, and Eastern and Western languages. In my own scholarly and creative contributions, I sometimes use the authority of my proper name, sometimes I use the sign of my post-human performance avatar. But given the centrality of VJ Amel's techno-feminist cyborg in this show, it is worth calling attention to the methodological statement I offered in a co-authored article called Eventanglement, a script to reflexively extend engagement by ways of technology, in which I describe my work as a transformative practice of spirited cooperation and subversive appropriation. It is informed by an enacted interdisciplinary research methodology, enabling a deeper understanding of how blogs, social networking sites, Twitter feeds, Parler, YouTube, new media platforms engage and infect with us. The idea of glitch that I'm articulating is one in which failure, uncertainty, pessimism, and unhappiness become positive, in the sense that they constitute spaces that invert normative politics. Attentive to what Sarah Ahmed has termed the cultural politics of emotion, theorists such as Lauren Berlant, Jack Halberstam, Jose Munoz, Eve Sedgwick have similarly repurposed negativities as strategies against predetermined norms, and constructivist articulations of deviant identities or glitched identities. In this context, the notion of the subject resists definition, allowing for a continuous making and remaking of subjects and political projects. In Capital Glitch, I take up the term glitch as a semiotic sign to critique the visceral idea that difference is always already built into the machine and the platform. In its glitchiness, the image of the Capitol building fails to substantiate the sovereignty or state power. Capital Glitch performs a critique through the cyborg theory and practice of VJ Amel. Okay, embodied with USB ports as fingertips, VJ Amel is here to tell us that we are all cyborgs. Nevertheless, we have to reckon with our radical biological vulnerability. My argument today discovers that the 2004 to 2016 era of the Arab uprisings and the 2021 Capitol riots, more broadly, under a new light or point of view, have been utilized in my attempt to understand the role of social media in popular uprisings around the globe, no matter what the political position. The product of theorizing the glitch as a media affordance maps patterns and stories, ideas, and analyses from across the media forms. It aims at refuting the possibility of a monolithic narrative, while situating the study within the growing scholarship of social media and political change and introducing key concepts in research creation or creative praxis or theory practice. The methodology works specifically at nodal junctures between culture, technology, and these ideas follow multidimensional approaches and thrive in situations where difference between knowledge production modalities, cultures, and languages require one to translate and straddle these differences into a cohesive form. And I'm hoping that that's what the work that you see in the work today. So before I walk you through the virtual gallery, I'm going to ask you to imagine the world you most want to create. And then ask, who do you need to become in order to live in that world? What kind of identity shift or change do you need to make to be a part of that world? Anything we want to create comes through us. If we are not willing to be it before it actually arrives, we are not helping make it manifest. We have to become it before it comes to us. And so I, at this particular hour, am going to present to you the becoming of this work, of VJ Amel's practice, of the shift that the CYBORG makes in presenting this new work. When you go out, you'll see a lot of these works in the room wall theater as well as in the gallery space. In the Capitol Glitch, we have 183 million posts that we actually took from the Donk NB's data dump, and we analyzed it quite a bit. There's a lot of analysis that went into it to be able to pull what we thought was worth analyzing. So from that, we have 183 million posts. We analyzed 13.2 million users, and the date range was from January 5th through January 7th. We really were focusing on Parler, but then we also decided to do a comparison with Twitter data. So we didn't pull as much, but in the Mosaic Wall, you'll see that the day version is made up of 1 million, is culled from 1 million Parler images. It's made up of 6,200-ish. And the night version is made up of also 6,200-ish images, but it's culled from a smaller data set of Twitter images. Okay. It's in 3 acts, the Mosaic Wall, the glitch prints, and then the immersive installation. For those who are online, they can follow along. For you guys, you get to go there. This is the Mosaic Wall. If we go to full screen, it helps a little bit, and let it load. So here we have, this is the wall that we said, this is the day version. If you pull this over, you have the night version. These are Twitter images, 6,200 and some. These are Parler images. And the way you interact with this is you choose your avatar, and then you can start scrolling around. In the gallery space, there are 2, it's a little bit different. There are 2 tables, and there are QR codes where you will go and you'll use the QR code with your mobile phone. That will take you to a controller, where you'll be able to choose your Arab CYBORG avatars. Choose which one, and you'll be able to scroll around that way. This is a little bit different for the website. As you see, you can leave, you can join. The Arab CYBORG avatars I'd like to introduce to you. These are the data bodies, and I'd like to give a little credit to my 8-year-old daughter, Aya, who actually made many of these, which was really incredible. And I think this is also a point of my methodology. If you notice, it's working with the students and working with children and really looking towards the future and looking to the young for the answers. So here you'll get to choose which cyborg avatar you would like to embody or sort of slip through, to be able to slip through all of this, the borders and the different borders of the works. We have Glitch, Ibn Tufaha. These names are have meaning in Arabic, if you want to ask your Arabic-speaking friends in the audience to help you with that. And then once you go on, the next piece, these are the prints that are hanging. Tapestry is a glitch print of Yemen from 2017. Birds is from 2015, and this is taken in Libya, off the coast of off the Mediterranean coast, next to a boat of refugees leaving. And this is Cairo glitch that was taken in 2015 in Cairo on part of the graffiti walls, remnants from the Arab Spring in 2011. The 3-channel installation is up right now, and when you're in there, you will have. It's hard to explain that on a website, but you'll have videos playing on walls, and on the inside, you're going to put on one of two. We have 2 HoloLenses. We have 2 HoloLenses. You'll see them like this in the gallery space. You unplug one. There's Josh Bevan, this is our developer here. He's putting it on, demonstrating it. Then you see how he is now looking like he's pushing things in space. Well, that's how you're going to gesture inside the HoloLens. It's really sort of 3-dimensional. You have to feel like you're pushing like think about Pillsbury Doughboy. You just keep going in, and don't be hesitant to touch. And here you see what we have are 3 of our large-scale visualizations, frequent words on the left, and the relationship between them. You'll see the actual posts moving back and forth between the words. We captured this on the coast of La Jolla this morning. But you'll be watching this in the gallery. And then, oops, I don't know why it's this internet. Okay. And then you have recreation of, this is what we call procession. It's a recreation of the procession that the rioters made from the stage where Trump spoke by the monument all the way to the Capitol building. You see those big play points? Those are waypoints. These are called waypoints. Sorry, I'll just stop this for a second. We have a lot of messages here, but these big blocks with play buttons, these are called waypoints. And when you click on each of them, it's a time in the timeline. If I remember earlier, I mentioned that these videos are geolocated, have geolocation data and time coded. And so this is where and when a video was posted exactly. But we have several different times, and so you'll have to click that. If you want to stop the whole thing from starting, if you want to stop the whole procession, you use the red key. So I'm just going to click on that. And as you see, the videos start playing early on, and it starts, and it's just like you hear a lot of music, a lot of sort of happiness. And then as you go further, I'm just going to you start hearing the chants of USA, Stop the Steal. And then it gets a bit more intense if you go to about 2:30 and 3 p.m. That's when have a video of Ashley Babbitt being shot. We did not include it today for reasons of ethics, but it's in the data set. You can watch videos. If you go to, I think, minute 2, you'll see people literally breaking the doors of the Capitol building. They're here. So these videos can really, they can really act as legal for legal cases, because you have the time and the place and you see the events. Okay. In the HoloLens, it's really exciting. Here are the timeline of events, again, that each of those waypoints will represent. Oh, sorry, I wanted to say, okay, so this is Connect the Dots. There's going to be a web version where you can really play around and you grab it. And I forgot to show you also in the video and in the HoloLens, you'll also be able to experience user web, which is one of my favorites. You'll get to see a lot of people, you know, Proud Boys and all kinds of folks. And what's really fun about this is that you see the relationships between people and who is sending what to whom. And there are names that you're going to recognize. Now, Parler has an interesting technique. They use the technique of verifying and users by having them send their driver's license. So we have these verified and unverified users that you could choose from. And again, one of the arguments was that the CEO of Parler was in such a hurry to get this platform up, is that he just sort of took a lot of shortcuts. And I think this idea of having verified users send in their driver's license was just a quick way to get around having to build all of the technological infrastructure that they should have. Here we have predictive politics. We use sort of a AI technique to sort of movements or people. So you can see it's a tree map to see what is the probability under MAGA. These are the other movements that were the most. You see the probability statistic there, probability 12.7%, and the word that was predicted will be said. I mean, if we're looking for movements, these are the ones that are most likely to show up. And people under Ashley Babbitt, these are the words that will show up under Ashley Babbitt. Ashley, kill, and there's a percentage there, murder, and I didn't see the percentage. Okay. So this is a tree map that actually provides a sort of a predictive technique. And these are what we call users on the block. And this is sort of the sentiment of most of the users. Sean Hannity has X number of followers, and he, relatively speaking, has a 18% negative sentiment analysis on all of his tweets. So we took like everything that he posted, and we did a sentiment analysis, and so we came up with these very interesting percentages and numbers. Is this clear? You can ask me questions about this afterwards. That's users on the block. Tweets over time is from the Twitter data, the old 2011 data, and we thought we'd have this in here because there's so much comparison, and this actually lives in Archive. And you have users, or the steam graph, the users from the 2011 Twitter data that I had collected. And here you have the tweets over time, distributed over time. And overall, you can get a sense of the users that we have analyzed. How many are public, how many are private, how many are banned, unbanned, how many of them were human, how many were verified. And then you can come back and listen to the talk again. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So.
All right, shall we have our panelists join us on the stage? We have, I should talk into this thing. We have with us, thank you so much, Laila, that was amazing. And so our panelists are joining us on stage. We have Jordan Crandall and Ricardo Dominguez with us tonight, as well as Ronak Etempador. I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry, Ronak. Do we have Ronak?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Ronak. I'm sorry, I garbled your name. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, so hello everyone. So my name is Ronak Etamatpour. So I'm a faculty member. I'm an assistant professor in computer science in CUNY University of New York City College of New York. And two of my students were working with Laila, and I had collaboration for this particular project with Laila. So basically, I did the advisement of my student, but most of the work has been done by Laila and her students and my student. I was just the advisor.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And Jordan Crandall and Ricardo Dominguez are both professors in the visual art department. And thank you for joining us. So I think we're going to do just an informal discussion rather than formal moderation. I'll start it off. So Laila, can you talk? You talked about millions of images, and you ended up with 6,200 of Parler, 6,200 of Twitter. And I'm always interested in algorithmic curation and how what is percolates to the top of a social media site becomes our impression of one another or ourselves. And so I was curious, how did you choose which 6,200 of each group to feature?
That's a great question. Well, so there were many steps involved. It was not one step. First, we culled some, and we had a problem with the data set because the images were from one set and the videos were from another, and we didn't have a way to tie them together. But there's a lot of machine learning, content recognition tools, and we used, this time I have to say, I mean, I've been doing this for many years, but this was the first time that most of the tools were machine learning driven. Like, there are machine learning tools that can actually go into the images and identify things. But what's interesting is that when we did that first time, these tools that are been built, they are built with libraries, right? So they're not really built for this kind of data. They're built for to get people to do those CAPTCHAs and whatnot. So many of the things that showed up were fire hydrants, cats and dogs and banal things, right? And what I was seeing in my own bare eyes were lots of guns. I was seeing a lot of guns, and I thought to myself, you know what? That machine learning library probably doesn't have, they're probably not looking for guns. You know what I mean? I don't know I feel like I'm in and out. They're not looking for guns, and so the machine learning algorithm is not taught to look for guns because it's not a common thing to do. So after we used just that technique, we're like, well, that's not going to work fully. But we did eventually get it down to, I think, and then it was also a matter of being able to just simple weight issues. Can I, what it means to download gigabytes?
Yeah.
Does anybody try to download gigabytes? It takes days. It takes time. It's not an easy thing. And so we kind of had to deal with also our own technical restraints, and so what we could manage. At the end of the day, I use a tool that recreates these mosaics such that I need because it has to have a big pool of images, and then it goes in and looks kind of looking for the color in each image and putting the color where it needs to be. And I need about 3 times as many images in order for it to look good. So I started with about 15,000 to end up with 6. So so if that makes any sense. So we started, first we had the huge quantity, then we brought it down to what was made sense. And then we were able to pull up things that were related to some of it, but some of it are still cats and dogs, you'll see. So we did our best. But at the end of the day, it was both by content and then by human and then by technical restrictions. And then at the end of the day, the computer program picks color pixels and locates them in the mosaic.
So you were looking for people and guns and
I mean, I wanted to find the items in the, one way we were going to do the mosaic was through analyze it through topics, but we were just unable to, it just didn't work at the end. So we were able to get a big pool of images that we knew were not broken and were relatively decent. And then from there, it became an aesthetic choice.
Is that, can you hear me? Yeah, it's, thank you, Laila. That was really good to hear. What I'm thinking about is, how much, often always when we encounter an event like January 6th, there's always the question of how we access that event, how we interface with it. And there is, of course, lots of choices that we make in terms of the news media that we watch and the social media that we follow. And often we don't necessarily think about the means of delivery, the means through which we access this information. It's just part of our familiar media ecology. And so we absorb it through the media that we're used to. And when I think about this, I think of what you're doing is constructing or calling attention to the means through which we access information and encounter and try to make sense of an event like this. And you're constructing a kind of, calling attention to and constructing an apparatus through which to engage it. And so it's the apparatus that kind of comes to the fore for me rather than actually what it is we're actually looking at. And that's not a criticism, it's just like, that's very interesting. So, and so I guess the question is, in the sense then what are we to do with it? And I guess that's up to us, but there's that sense of picking an avatar and using an avatar, a data body to move through this complex ecosystem of imagery. What is our relationship to it? And how does it change our relationship? How does it lend insight, I suppose, if that's part of the aim? I guess it's really an open question. Take anything.
Yeah, this is a great question, actually, and I think I talked about this to somebody. I'm reconstructing. So one of my critiques is that the way social media platforms are built, they're designed to keep us in echo chambers, and they're designed so that you're sold what you like, and therefore you only see what you like. And the purpose is that you stay on there and as long as you can. And if you see something you don't like, in theory, you're not going to stay on there. And so they're not making money. But echo chambers are, I think, really dangerous. And so part of what I'm trying to do here is recreate the community authored platform that is Parler and Twitter and sort of put them together. Also, maybe I think that because we are in so many echo chambers, we don't see difference anymore. And so I wanted to bring things that might be very different for people and put them next to each other, just juxtapose them and ask us to look at things that might not come across your news media feed because of the way the algorithms decide what your politics are, and therefore decide. And now they're kind of confused, right? Like they used to think that if you didn't want to be vaccinated, then that means you also might want, I don't know what. Like there's all these these ideas that if you're like this, then you're like this, and then you get categorized in that, and then in your news feeds you do not see anything but that, right? So you don't see. So then you think the whole world's like you. But they're not. When we don't live in isolation. We're deeply influenced by each other, and we are all sliding through myriads of contexts at all times. So I think part of it is to just get people. I would love to be able to redesign the internet or redesign social media. And so this is sort of a thought-provoking.
Yeah, there's just there's that sense of shock of encountering something so radically other than what you normally see. These messages or these images, you never see them.
Right.
And so you're staging these encounters with this material is jarring, indeed.
Yeah. And I think the platforms themselves are feeding into that. I thought it was interesting that you used Parler data set and the Twitter data set, because when you switch between them, you see the voice, the sentiment change considerably. So we now are not only curated through what a particular algorithm will show us within a platform, but there are groups that are going to other platforms which will then have their own voice, so that the platform becomes part of that curation itself.
The medium is the message. I mean,
yes, I was trying to resist saying that. So thank you for saying it. Yeah.
Well, I thought one of the elements that is important to consider is the question of glitch itself, which is a term that is Yiddish and German. It's about sliding, slipping, being outside of the sort of container. In a certain way, the insurrection might have been a bug in the system, and there's a thought that one can patch that bug. But a glitch is the cloud of unknowing. There's no specific kind of ontology to it, or epistemology, or politics. It's slipping. It's a banana peel on a digital level, where Twitter and Parler can become synonymous, right, in the data slippage. But I think what's really, for me, maybe something of the glitch that occurs that in terms of the multi-staging, the different worlds that encounter, and the feelings or affects that one has, is that these were the products of self-surveillance. Surveillance, right? It was, that is, it was data bodies becoming double bodies that wanted to cohere with their data bodies, right? The streets and the performative matrix was, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want there to be a specific GPS locale. So there's a desire to be that thing. And I was thinking that we have a long history of wanting to be captured, wanting to be data. I was thinking of the Paris Commune of, I think, 1871. The reason that they were caught, the communards, was that they had themselves photographed by many people, because it was part of the amplification of being the communards, right? So people had images of them in their parlors. They had images of themselves in the newspapers of the time, and the police then were able to hunt them down because they had data leaked their desire to be seen, to be heard. So that this relationship between the optical, the data body, and the desire is part of a performative matrix. And I think often we want to patch it. We want to patch it by a new platform. We want to patch it by a new ideology. But there's always this glitch. And the glitch is this other element, right? In which the politics, the platforms, and the desire are so entangled that it's difficult to disaggregate unless you do aesthetic decisions by color, by feeling, by frame. And I think it's been a sort of historical manifestation. And I think the capital glitch is just one of a series of glitches that have been occurring through our sort of desires to be seen, to be present, to have body doubles, to have image doubles. And I think what's really fascinating, especially with Amy and you here, is that part of that desire is that algorithm, right, that captures and shares the data. But there's also, I think, in the glitch, algorithm, another rhythm that is occurring. And that's the one I think aesthetics brings to it in a way that maybe the police sensibility of the optical or the Facebook sense of the optical don't do what you're doing, right? Is how do we see these different frames going on? So it's a performative matrix in which the data body and the real body sort of play with each other, but it's not a very rational or a sensibility. It's a glitch sensibility, I guess. So I'm interested in your sense of the glitch
I love
as
this.
opposed to the bug,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is the way that media says we're going to fix it.
Oh, yeah.
The bug of democracy or the bug of whatever it happens to be. Sorry, I'll stop there.
That's great. No, that was beautiful. Well, I think, first of all, as you said, the glitch is slippage, right? So it's actually, even though it's a verb, even though it's a noun, it's a verb.
Mhm.
It's a movement. It's a phenomenology. It moves. It changes. And so I think that's one of the most important things is to understand about the media systems that we're dealing with is that they're not static. They can't be static. We're not talking about just images. We're talking about a media system, meaning that there's movement, and it's constantly, the servers are constantly on. And so the glitch is something that interrupts a movement of motion, not a bug that sits and sort of like just like a rock in your shoe that's kind of you want to get it out of your shoe. No, this is this is different. This is a glitch, and it comes technically from it's historically comes from Yiddish. But the first time it was used in the English language was in the 1960s when John Glenn used it when they shot, I don't know, there was one of the rockets went to the moon or something. And he was talking about a glitch in the electrical system of the rocket. And that was the first time it was used in English. But again, it's a system. So I think that that's one thing that's really important. And so if a glitch is an intervention into a system and it's also moving, then it's really dynamic and exciting because then you can really, it's dynamic. It changes the orientation, the direction. It can do all kinds of aesthetic things. And the other thing that about glitch, so that's one. The second thing is that glitch is it deteriorates things. It's just, especially when it comes to digital media. Digital media, by its nature, is meant to look super hyper glossy in the capitalist world, that in order to sell things. But behind every digital image is a bunch of pixels and a bunch of numbers. And the reality of what's behind the digital image is a bunch of other things that we never see. So the glitch makes visible the invisible in digital technology. And so one of the pieces you'll see of the mosaic, and then I glitched it, you'll see this these frames that sort of stutter. And what it is that I'm actually removing some of the important digital compression data that are called iframes, the frames in digital video compression that has all the information. And then in digital video compression, then, in a film strip, right, old analog film strip, you've got X number of frames. It's on a film strip, and you got to play the whole film strip to watch them. But in digital video, you compress these frames in different ways depending on the codec. But there's always got to be some of those keyframes that have all the information. So glitch takes out the keyframes. So then you just have this funny shadow image, and you don't get the keyframes. So I'm actually sort of subverting and showing people that this is a digital video as opposed to a film strip, and that the digital is made up. This is how digital pixels are made up, and you're revealing the structure, the technology behind it. So that's exciting too, because a lot of things are sort of hidden for commercial purposes. So on the one hand, glitch is able to impact movement. On the other hand, it is about movement, and it's a way to intervene in movement. And then on the other hand, it's this exciting taking it apart. I just love, and then of course, when we're in a world where algorithmic culture is so everywhere. You can't get on the phone to make a phone call without it. You can't do almost anything without data-driven outcomes. And sometimes when you get frustrated, I just want to, like, the only human response is to glitch it. I just want to glitch everything, glitch it down, glitch it all down, you know? So it's just an activist's, I think, impulse in a world that is so heavily algorithmically driven, and we don't really, and most people don't understand what that means. Most people don't have procedural literacy. They really have no idea. And I find all of this very dangerous. Yeah.
Well, I think the other element of doubling in the work, and you brought that up in your presentation, is, say, the specific case of Cambridge Analytica, who looked at language, who scraped Facebook, who gathered this kind of data. And to what degree you mimic or double that, right? You're a kind of aesthetic-based Cambridge Analytica, looking at the different models, right? All the way from affective words to, kinopolitics of movement, kind of forensics, if you will, a forensic architecture. So again, the glitch for me in the work is that you, again, are playing with the parlance of Cambridge Analytica. It's a communal one, in that it offers a different sort of aesthetic. But I wonder to what degree you're having a conversation with an entity like Cambridge Analytica as part of this forensic aesthetic that you're doing.
You'll have to read the book, because it's in there, for sure. And I think that's really critical. Yes, I work with lots, and I think one of the key important points to take away is that this technology, whether it's glitch or we're talking about social media, all technology has this double-edged sword, right? And we know that. And so it can be used no matter what your political persuasion, no matter what your ethics are. The technology can be used for good and bad, just to be very simple. And I think, I've been in and out of this. So I started archiving Twitter data in 2008, and by 2017 I had 80 billion posts. A very close friend of mine in Egypt, Ala Abdel Fattah, I have it here, is still in Torah prison, and he learned literally last month that on October 18th, 2021, he learned that he's being charged for resharing a tweet about a prisoner who died as a result of ill treatment in a maximum security wing of Torah prison. So he's in prison since 2019 because of a tweet. So I basically took Archive down. I took it down. I took Archive that was becoming like Cambridge Analytica down, because who was it serving? Nobody, the point was to serve a community of activists, and that it certainly wasn't doing that anymore. It was serving the community of the state. State actors were interested in the work that I was doing. So I took it offline. I do think that the art venues are a place for us to have these conversations, because we have to. And this is where the practice and the theory come hand in hand. How can we really look at what Cambridge Analytica is doing unless we really understand how to do that? Like, to really look into how is it that their analysis, how were they analyzing? I do think it just needs to be critiqued, and in order to do so, this is one method. It's a methodology, I'd say. But it's also I can be critiqued as well. One can critique me for doing that, and I see that Though I guess you could take me on for that one.
It's a double-edged
double-
sword,
yeah.
certainly, yes. Ronak, would you like to dive in?
Yeah, so I'm very interested in what the topic that you're talking about because, I'm a very technical person and so we don't talk and discuss these things in our community, at least in computer science, and whatever we talk about is about how to analyze the data, what are the applications behind the data analysis. And this work with Laila gave me this opportunity to learn about different perspective because I never had such a perspective about the data before. So, like whatever we talk about is like how to collect the data, how to save the data, which kind of machine learning to do to be able to analyze the data. But basically, most of the application are discussed are like the applications that are known. But this, like the glitch application that Laila brought out was very interesting and really helped me to understand like what are other people, what other scientists are thinking about. And so I'm actually a data visualization specialist in computer science, and I have some kind of interactions with the humans and also the end users, but most of my end users are looking at like the end products, and they give me like the insights about the data and how good is the application, but we never think of like such a things like what are the applications beyond the developed tools. So and this work is like a combination of art, data analytics, and real world problems. That was all together. So, and was very helpful for me at least to understand other people's perspective as well. So, yeah, and recently, like this actually work with Laila motivated me to on the social media data, like the Twitter data, and do some kind of analysis on the hate crime against Asian American people, because like after the COVID things, like there are so many hate and crime against Asian American, particularly to understand like what are the connections between like such a pandemic and like the tweeters, and what kind of algorithms can predict better so the hateful speech or crimes against like a specific community or population, and how we can just stop that. Because so probably there are some kind of tools available like in other social media like for example Facebook and Twitter, but we don't know what are those algorithms because they really do not share their specific algorithm and the techniques, and most of the papers that we read are written by other, for example, scientists in other universities, but they are not coming from the Facebook itself or from the Twitter, or at least as far as I know. So I think like knowing other people's job and others people work, like such as being in this community with artists, with social scientists, with other people from different backgrounds, so is really helpful for computer scientists such as me to understand the real world problems and understand the meaning of the glitch. So that could be useful for creating some algorithms that stop the glitch or detect the glitch, or like or if it glitches in a good term, so how to do it. So yeah, I don't know if you have any questions.
It was really exciting working with Ronak. When this project began, at the same time that this began, my brother actually, who's a professor, an associate professor at CUNY College, a physicist, said, I want to introduce you to a colleague of mine, a data scientist who does data visualization, and that was Ronak. And so Ronak and I met, and this project was coming up, and she wanted to collaborate, and so we decided to collaborate. I said, I'm looking to hire a data scientist or two, because I was working with DJ and Josh Bevan, who are my students at UC Santa Barbara in the Film and Media Studies department. But we wanted some data scientists. And so we worked with Ronak and MD Rahman, who is her student at CUNY, and he's now in New York. Shout out to MD. And Handel Viniero, also in New York. Shout out. So those two guys were our data scientists, and they worked alongside with DJ and Josh and myself to put this on. So in many ways, Ronak was quite brought the science and the data science to the project.
Yeah, so but most of the work has been done so by Laila. So I was, because these two students who worked with Laila, they were my students in my class, in senior design class that I teach data visualization and data science. So they learn a lot about like which kind of visualization are the best for representing specific data. And my expertise is mostly on multi-dimensional data sets. It's like like data beyond 10 dimensions. So I think like being in my class and gave them more information about like how to develop a tool that is useful to gain insight from the data. So, and of course, like Laila and DJ were very, I mean, they did the most part of the job along with MD. So, and I hope that the end product is the good product for everyone, that they can see and understand the glitch topic.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to ask one more question, and then we'll go over to and we'll take questions and answers from the audience. So I was reading an interview you had given about this show, Laila, and you had talked about a hopefulness, right? Like a hopefulness of understanding and at least hearing one another's differences. And I thought that's interesting, and even more so with some of the discussion we've been having of double-edged swords, of hacktivists revealing information versus surveillance. And some of what you talked about in your talk, how you relate your hacktivist Open Egypt work of a decade ago, where people were, there was grassroots activists using Twitter to talk about what was going on in the Arab Revolution. And yet now the flip side of that is January 6th. And so I thought it was interesting that you're kind of talking, and as you mentioned in your talk, that these are both things that we have to talk about. They're two sides of the same coin, how people use social media to affect change against the government, whether it's something we might not agree with or something that we do support. So I wonder if you can kind of talk to us about how you see this hopefulness, given that obviously the images that we see in the room are quite contentious and you might not think are hopeful images.
That's okay. Good question. Well, there's ebbs and curves. I think part of what we're looking at is what the world was like in 2011 versus what the world is like in 2021. And of course, geography matters as well. But so VJ Amel is mother of hope, and I think that hope is, I'm not going to go into hope and despair and that whole conversation, but it is it's sort of maybe the main thrust of my work is to be hopeful. And I've been tested on that one, so you can keep testing on. I think I'm just holding on. I'm insisting to be hopeful because I really, like I said, I think I said we should be hopeful then. And I think at the same time, it was, at the time, there was an over fetishizing of the technology, like social media, as if social media had gone off and created a revolution. We gave way too much credit to the social media platforms then. We give way too much credit to the social media platforms now. But then again, the medium might be the message. It has so much power. But the truth is, it's the people behind the power. It's the people behind the social media, that we need to look at. What are they saying? Are they trying to create more double bodies and do a type of surveillance and say, I am here, free speech, stop the steal? Or are they trying to say, we are the people want this? And I think that we have to be hopeful that we can listen to each other. I'm hoping that, again, we can actually learn to listen without fighting. And I think the first step into, what happened in 2011, there's a lot for us to learn from. What's happening now, there's a lot for us to learn from. I don't think it's going to stay still. None of this is going to last. Things will continue to evolve. And if we don't stay on top of it and hopeful, then they could evolve in ways we might not want. I'm just insisting on being hopeful, I think, because I want to.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And certainly we've seen since the 80s the emergence of a performative matrix that seeks to define relationships between data bodies and real bodies. And certainly in the 90s, the RAND Corporation, the other side, said there is social net war. And so and they defined it as cyber terrorism, cyber crime, cyber war. And one of the things they left out of that social network was any sense of the glitch. Everything was always very much a totalized awareness, if you will. So I'm really fascinated by your sense of hope, Mother Cyborg.
Yeah, and the glitch is
And
our
the
hope.
possibility of the glitch.
And the
Sorry.
possibility, the glitch is our possibility.
Possibility.
The glitch is the way out.
All right.
I think we should leave it.
On that note, we'll take questions. So, AV team, should people walk to the microphone? How will this work? Okay, so
The
folks,
microphone
there were
doesn't
two
work.
microphones. There they are, one on each side. And so if you'd like to ask a question, please come to the microphone, and that way it can go out on YouTube and to the glitchosphere. I think it does it.
Can I just go? Hi, my name is Angel. I think it's really interesting that you discuss this idea that social media platforms, like, they profit off of showing you stuff that you like, and it's not profitable to see stuff that you don't because you just walk away. And I think it's interesting you mentioned this idea that, like, you were like, if I could, I'd reinvent, like, the whole internet, which is, like, that's a big thing. But if we look at, like, I think Twitter is interesting because it doesn't necessarily house, like, the most radical echo chambers, but there's something particularly awful that I think we all agree about the way it encourages, like, this, like, anger and frustration. But it's also that same kind of energy that encourages, that provides a platform for activism and discussions like that. Do you think there's a way to kind of, like, redesign how we use and interact with a social media platform like Twitter to kind of facilitate the discussions that we should be having?
There's a project, Ben Carson, it's a recent project, Ben Grosser recently has a project. He created an anti-Facebook social networking site, and he also did I think there was a short documentary recently.
Yeah, it's an anti-Twitter site as
It's
well.
an anti-Twitter site as well. So yeah, take a look at Ben Grosser's work. I was really impressed. I think that was where I came
I
to
think
think of
the
it.
project is called Minus, and you're only allowed, I think, 1,000, and then it erases itself along the way.
Yeah.
And he also did a Facebook affective deaggregator from the choices that you get, like or don't like, and it would randomly create alternative formations that you had no general control of. So it could be vomit to dancing, but it just did it for you so that then the Facebook data capture would be unable to see if you were an elderly gentleman, a young kid, or woman, because it kept shifting. And so the algorithm might be worth looking at.
Well, I think Angel brings up a really good point, which is these algorithms that we keep talking about that show us some things and not other things. What they're looking for is engagement, right? And people are somehow,
want
paying
the
attention and interacting with the post. Well, what usually generates that is people saying contentious stuff and getting angry at each other, right? Like you say something, no, yes, no, yes. All of that engagement with one another is what's bringing that type of content to the top of the search ranking, and we keep seeing more and more of that, and that's increasingly being understood as a problem. And this, I think there's two solutions to that. One is to somehow hope that social media companies will realize that they're, potentially creating the end of society and go, well, maybe we should, adjust this. Another one is for people to become aware of that and go, okay, maybe I should not click the button if I'm provoked. Maybe I shouldn't respond, right? What if we all got together and responded to puppy dogs and kitty cats, which are, I guess, second place, good things, right? So it's part of it is it's mirroring human tendency to be provoked, and I think
Triggered.
Triggered. So the possibilities of us as users overcoming that and forcing the algorithm to do something else would be another glitch. A hopeful
I
glitch.
think the other element is that we always expect these systems to be eternal.
Right.
And I've lived through AOL and I don't know, you name it, BBS systems, Moose, the Palace, I don't know. There's so many dead digital cultures that we imagine that Facebook and Twitter and is going to be here. But in a certain sense, the glitch is navigating the ruins yet to come. And building on these systems that sort of leak away, so they're not, bunkers of eternity, if you will.
Did you ever try to find something you put on the web in 1997? It's impossible. If it's a thing you want, it's gone. Yeah. So.
I think that's why I deleted what I had. Like I just said, okay, it's lived its life.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
We have more questions?
One question over there and then there.
Okay.
That was a really good question. Hi, my name is Bruin. I just want to hear some of your experience talking about your cyborg persona. I mean, you said it was conceived on 9/11, and at that time, cyber feminist theory was still super young, and it's only deepened. We can see now, how panoptic the internet has become, and how even more decentralized it's become. So, what's been your experience from then till now, and also where do you predict it going, based off this most recent exhibition?
Okay, thanks for that question. So, Vijay Amel, the performance started 9/11. However, my first love with the idea of the cyborg was when I was in college in the early 90s, and I read Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto. So that's been out for a while. It's not so new, is what I want to say. I feel when I took it on, there was a whole history. There is a history to cyborg feminism, and I just sort of popped in when I did. What was exciting for me is a couple things, and I took from Haraway, but I also took from other feminist scholars like Catherine Hales. And on the one hand, it allowed me to be able to shift shape. You try to say it with a mask on, and move around different, boundaries and geographies. As an Arab American, to slip between English and Arabic is a profound experience. And of course, traveling around. So that was one aspect. But 9/11, I was in Washington, D.C., and I was working. I was involved in spoken word collectives. I was actually founding spoken word collectives. And so it was really a morphing of doing spoken word collectives for public art performance, and then realizing the urgency of making it a political matter. And so one of the first things was co-founding the DC guerrilla poetry insurgency, in which with several other people, and we basically took spoken word out to the streets. And that's when I was building my first websites around 1997. And so my work as VJ Amel was my activist work to accompany the DC guerrilla poets and other activists on the street with a projector. So, I'd project on buildings, and I would bring the VJ part. So that's how it started. And then 14 years ago tomorrow, my oldest daughter, Amel, was born. She's right there. Her birthday really is tomorrow. So Amel is technically 14 years old tomorrow, because that's when I became a mother. And that's a very profound experience also, and it informs my feminist experience. And I do think I try to use collaboration, I use care as a technology, and I use motherhood as a technology in my art practice. I think often we think of mothers here and technology over there, and Arabs I don't know where, and I wanted to bring them all together. 20 years later, what have I done? I have done quite a bit of shows. It has been, I think, the most exciting part of VJ Amel as a conceptual art project is being able to think long, deep, and hard, and to be able to engage with theoretical ideas that my job in the university allows me to do. And it is sort of maybe the longue durée of this 20 years that enables me to think of VJ Amel as both an art project and a scholarly project as well.
Thank you, and happy birthday.
Thanks.
Question over here.
Okay. Hi, I'm Haley.
Hi, Haley.
I was kind of wondering if you were inspired by the Cyborg Manifesto, so that was cool to learn.
Yeah, totally.
I was just wondering, sort of in line when you were talking about social media being echo chambers, if you had any comment also about sort of like not only these systems curating what you want to see, but also curating what they want you to see, and shadow banning certain accounts that don't agree with the status quo or what they're trying to enforce in society.
Yeah, well, curating. I mean, first of all, I think it's very complicated, partly because of the scale. I was giving you those numbers earlier, but to the curation, to be able to curate and give what you want to give people so that they keep coming back, so that you keep their attention. Ultimately, for social media producers who are companies, they have one main goal, and that's to keep your attention. Their minutes you spend on their URL is their money. So that's one thing. But I think that there are many ways to curate the data, and it has to be curated, and it is a real problem. Lev Manovich wrote in his cultural analytics book, at the very end, his conclusion, which is like one page, says, do we need categories? And if we need categories to organize data, then we have a problem. We're always going to have categories, and then you'll always need a curator. And so somebody's got to make some decisions. I don't have an answer for you. I hope that. Sorry if that was a non-answer, but I don't know that there is an answer to that.
I don't know if I was expecting anything. I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was it? Lanier said that perhaps the process is to have them pay you for every bit of data.
Oh, there you go.
So that you get
Yeah.
profit from every minute that you participate, since it is your labor that's being extracted. Can capital and capital glitch be part of that glitch, where your data body, your body double, is not the point of extraction, but the site of value. So something like that.
yeah.
I think also a model to compare the algorithmic curation with is Reddit, right? Where Reddit, you have lots of human curators, and they're self-selected in many cases and choosing what the category is. And that's not a business model that Facebook probably wants to have. It would be very expensive to hire all of those people, right? But so it's a matter of
Choices.
yeah, of choices and of what, is it to do things the most efficiently, financially, and what does efficiency mean if it's creating the situation we have now? Clearly, the machine learning algorithms have limitations. So I think it's something to think about for the at least near future. Will the old-fashioned model of hiring lots of people to do jobs suddenly become viable?
Well, I was going to say it's like the old BBS or Moo is Reddit, right?
Yeah.
So it's reversing the model, kind of going back to a deeper archive. Yeah. So join a BBS and a Moo, I guess. What do you-
Yeah.
Do you have a,
I
do you
am.
have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question. What does the Trump part have to do with the main idea, like what it's about?
Okay, I'm going to speak to an 8-year-old who asked the most intelligent questions. So, part of what? Okay, so Aya, it's a very good question. The question that you asked is a question of responsibility. Okay, so the President Trump, when this happened, Donald Trump was president of the United States, and he was giving a talk. A rally across as you see, across the mall, they call it, at the monument, across from where the Capitol building was, where all the senators and all of the Congress people were going to ratify that the United States, that the vote in the United States went to Joe Biden for president. Okay, they have to do something in the Capitol. It's called ratifying, I think, right? Mm-hmm. And that takes hours. So while that was going on, the president didn't want Joe Biden to win and said that he claimed that Joe had stolen the election. Those were the words that President Trump used. And so he went and called for a rally, and people came to listen to him. And he said what he said, which wasn't true. There was no stealing. And he said a lot of things. And we will hear them in the videos in the HoloLens. And so then people went and they broke into the Capitol. So who's responsible? Is it President Trump? Is it the people is it the people who were on the streets and actually broke into it? Does the social media platform have responsibility? Who's responsible? Who's responsible? Is it the president? What do you think, Aya? You don't have to answer that right now. I just, what do you, so?
That's a nice point to end on, maybe.
That's where everyone heard it, and that's where it started spreading.
Okay. I think that's a great place to end it.
Okay.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Good.
Can we invite people to enjoy the gallery? And,
Yes.
Yeah,
what do
going
we
to
invite
our
them to
food.
now?
Okay,
This is,
so we are. Thank you so much, everybody. Do you want to mention your
yeah.
thing on the 4th?
Yes. So
Okay.
just a couple things, what to come and look for. Anybody's interested in, I'm doing a manuscript workshop with parts of this book with the Viz Arts department. If you're interested, please come and talk to me about it. It's going to be on December 4th via Zoom. Other than that, there's the gallery. We'll have the installation and the HoloLens. Where's the room wall? The theater is
In the Black Box Theater next door is the room, the giant
The
wall,
Mosaic Wall
the
is in
interactive
the-
thing. You can interact with your phone.
and that's in there. And then there will be a reception outside afterwards. So
Yeah, and I
welcome.
think the reception will already be going. So you can go back and forth between the reception and the
Thank you
work.
guys
Just
so
don't forget your mask.
that
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on our first event back. Thank you.